Well, for anyone not familiar, that's what about, I don't know, 300 some odd pounds of fresh, tender elk meat looks like. Little string of empty cans underneath it to give me a little alarm bell at my tent if somebody wants to steal it. We're successful! Yay! We got ourselves an elk. So, Sarah's pretty excited. She did really well. And now we got one more elk to attempt to harvest. We already found him. Almost got him this morning. Great big bull. And hopefully we'll get him tomorrow morning and seal the deal and head it back home. Pretty exciting. Very, very fortunate. Very good meat. For our health and nourishment. Yeah. Alright. Sit back up here. The timber here. Get some voices heard. Sarah's relaxing. And keep the truth train rolling. Where should I go here? I'll sit up in that stump again. How do I do it? See how bright the sun is on me. funny when I'm by myself hunting. I'm into it. It's exciting for me. It's healthy. I love to do it. But when I have somebody with me and I'm guiding them in any way, especially when they're new at it, I get so much more excited. I'm vibrating when it's about to go down. It's pretty exciting. Sarah was so happy to get that delicious elk meat for her freezer. So excited. Such a good thing. Now, where were we? Where were we? Don't know where we are, but what's this? This is a short one. And no, we haven't had anything abnormal go down here yet. We haven't had any bad feelings at all. Everything's been going smooth. 2,000-year-old pictographs of a Sasquatch family. My personal tour of Painted Rock in the foothills of Central California. Hey Steve, as a teenager, I had a 50-pound boulder thrown into the river at night right next to me while I was fishing on the Kings River near Reedley, California on a Christmas Eve evening. Well, that wasn't very nice, was it? It always puzzled me what/who could have done that, because no people were anywhere near me that night. A human being could not have thrown a rock that big and that far. I emailed you this encounter a few years ago, but I don't think it was read. I never even knew what Sasquatch was back then. Fast forward 40 years later, I came across your channel and heard you read encounters like mine about fishermen getting rocks thrown at them. This piqued an interest for me and led me to want to learn more about this Sasquatch phenomenon by visiting a historical site I had heard about in California called Painted Rock. Here's a report of my visit in April 2023 to one of the only known records of the hairy man recorded on stone by native people. These Sasquatch pictographs are estimated to be dated at approximately 580 or as old as 1 AD. You can use my name, Paul Lemlin. Paul, I hope I didn't butcher your last name, and I got my notes here. I'm not in service, and I can't pull it up. It must have been an attachment I didn't get to manage to download, but I will mark this as look into when I get back in service, and I will find it. And that sounds very, very interesting to me. Somebody on here listening is going to know about that too. Previously, I'll bet. Who's next? In the City is the title of this email. Hey Steve, thank you for all the many shares. As I've listened to stories, my memory has been jogged on a few more experiences that I have had. My first when I was 5. I'm writing about my two most recent, 4th of July, Belding, Michigan. I was camping out with my son and his friends. The friends own 100 acres of beautiful land. We were doing boatloads of fireworks and sitting around the campfire. I kept hearing activity in the bushes next to me, but couldn't see anything. Feeling uneasy, I went in for the night. We were in a small travel trailer. My grandson, his girlfriend, and myself. Due to my grandson being 6'6", he got the big bed, and I was stuck on the drop-down. At about 3 a.m., the girlfriend and I were awakened by the sounds of small rocks bouncing off the trailer. Then there was a big slap on the wall next to where I was laying down. I jumped to the far edge of the bed. Then we heard a guttural grunt of a big one and two little voices gibbering. It sure sounded like they got caught and trying to explain themselves. Then the big one spoke. It sounded like a dad was telling them to go to bed. It was amazing to hear, and nothing more. The next morning, the girlfriend and I went to investigating. We found where they had been huddled up in several bushes, and yes, right next to us the night before by the fire pit. My next story happened last month. I was at my daughter's apartment. I was cleaning up stray branches from the area. She parks her car when I discovered these structures in the heart of the city on Main Street. And there's no attachments. Shit, bat 0 for 2, that sucks. And that's the end of the email. I wonder why they do that. I wonder why they sit right next, like I said before, if it's such a bold statement of courage, braveness, no fright, am I even using correct English words? I mean, let's face it. If any of you are with me and we're slipping through this forest at nighttime in the dark, and all of a sudden we see a glow in the distance, and there's, say, even one, two, or more 10-foot tall, 800-pound, hairy, human-like beings sitting around right there at the forest, do you think we're going to go sneak up to 8 feet away from hide behind a bush? Doubtful. Right? Why do they have the confidence to do that to us all the time? Respect, knowledge, truth, and acceptance is the title of this email. Hey Steve, I've been listening to you for about 4 years now, back when you were telling hunting stories. I enjoy listening to you about all topics, especially the Sasquatch. My name is Aaron Knowers. Yes, you can use my name. I'm 41 years old and I live on the central coast of New South Wales, Australia. I'm an avid hunter, mainly deer, since the age of 13, and have reached out to you in the past. I've thought about writing to you for a very long time, and now have the courage to do so. My experience is not a full-on sighting, but I know it was the Australian Yowie for sure. Before I share my experience, I want you to know a few things. I have the utmost respect for you, Steve, as a true outdoorsman and hunter. I thank you for what you're doing for all of us and the round table. And I truly believe that I have the knowledge from my experiences from being in the bush alone while hunting. I know the truth, and I feel that I don't even have to explain it to anyone, as most people in Australia are very ignorant to a lot of your topics, unfortunately. I accept the truth may stay hidden to the general public in my lifetime, but you just never know, right? Yeah. Whatever. Though we know, and we find each other pretty quick. Please note, Steve, that I'm not a writer, LOL. I've only told this to my wife, daughter, and the farm boy at the property. Gotcha, man. My experience was Walcha, New South Wales, while fallow deer hunting in the rut of March 2017. With still warm nights and hot days, I had stalked onto a young buck following a mob of does. A mob in Australian is a herd. I got within 200 yards of him, was setting up for a nice rested shot. I had plenty of time as the wind was in my face. For no reason that I could explain or register, the buck suddenly jumped and ran over the ridge and out of sight, and so did the does. I could not believe it, as it was not me or any other animal or hunter that spooked them. It made me quite pissed off, as I thought it was a great stalk. I decided to sit for a while longer, hoping that another few does might stroll past. About a half an hour had passed, but nothing, though I came to realize that I was feeling a bit different for some reason, and noticed that it seemed to be very quiet, as I have what the doctors call tinnitus, and the ringing in my ears was more noticeably loud, which sometimes can be distressing. Then out of nowhere, I heard a not so distant but very loud and clear "ooh-wah" call from the tree line above me. It sounded like a huge owl on steroids, but I knew it wasn't. A minute or two or so had passed, and then again and again. "Ooh-wah. Oh-wah." I think that's how it's spelled. But even louder and longer. It was making me feel very uncomfortable and nervous, but really curious at the same time, as I swear, Steve, I've heard every sound there is in the bush, but never this one. And it couldn't possibly be a human or a deer or a goat or a pig or a bird. Just by the sheer power behind the "oh-wah" and the feeling that it gave me. It stopped after about the 10th time, so I decided to get the hell out of that area and head back to camp before it starts again and gets closer. As I turned and started my hike back, I got this weird pressure feeling, like the hairs on my body were standing up, and that feeling like something or someone is watching you, or like the feeling you get when you're a kid that made you want to run from a ghost in the dark or something, LOL. I made it back to camp with only a couple of hours, as I was moving fast with fear. I was greeted by a young farm boy named Hugo. He was about 10 years old. I told him my experience straight away, and I couldn't believe what he said. He said, "Don't worry, mate, that's just the Yowie that lives in the mountains. It steals Dad's antlers and skulls up the ant piles." I said, "Have you seen him?" Hugo said, "No, mate, we don't mess with him or he will take our calves and chickens. As livestock, has gone missing before when Dad tried hunting him. I said, okay, no worries, but I know he is definitely out there. I left the next morning very intrigued and also blessed that I had had that experience with a Yowie and survived. I'm going to return to Walcha this year, and I'm not sure what to expect or how I will feel when I get there. I have another experience to share another time from Alberta, near Fort McMurray. I hope this email finds you well, Steve, and thank you for sharing. All the best to you and your family. Take care, Aaron. Aaron, near Fort McMurray, there's so much that goes on near there. South of there is where we had that absolute gargantuan scream roar thing sent to us from those woodcutters south of Fort McMurray. I'm wondering if you guys got missing people down there, like we do up here. I wonder. Email us back what you know if you do know. I'd imagine people go missing all around the planet. It's just the way it is. Somebody is feeding on humans, without a doubt. Without a doubt, in my mind, anyway. But I wonder how many actually are going missing in the outback in Australia. Okay, what's this? This is titled, this one is for Al. Al? Or AI? I think Al. Steve, there are plenty of people who judge others and even make fun of those who have had encounters. Unfortunately, I was one of those people, and to this day I regret it. About 18 years ago, I went to work for an Alberta company and got a small taste of Alberta, including a trip to Banff with a beautiful Canadian woman that I met on a plane. Nicest girl I think I ever met. Also, if you don't believe in God after visiting Banff, then something's wrong with you. At this company, one of my coworkers was an elder guy, 60-ish, named Al. Al was as rough, tough, and weather as it comes. The closest thing to describing Al is Sam Elliott from the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, especially the boots, raspy voice, and a huge mustache. Did I read this? I think I might have, but I'm going to keep going. Al was the type of guy that you expect to be the only one to come out of the woods a week later if his plane went down in the mountains. We were in separate roles and departments, and I was quite a bit younger than Al, but we had overlapping professional experience and responsibilities. As I got to know and spend time with Al, he would share stories with me. Al's toughness was not an act or compensation. He was a man's man and not afraid of anything or anybody. He used to joke that he had made it through 3 wars and 4 marriages, and he wasn't afraid of anything. Al was ex-Special Forces, and I don't remember Al ever telling me anything about any of the wars, but it wasn't as if he was bothered by them. So I figured he either couldn't talk about them because it was secret, or to him it wasn't worth talking about. And one of the things that he did share with me was that he deployed in an Arctic-type area. He wouldn't tell me where. This wasn't an army base. It was out on foot in a blizzard in frozen wilderness, hundreds of miles from anything or anybody. He wouldn't say why they were there. I thought this was going to be a war story or an army story, but Al said that as they were laying in the snowdrifts in white camo, he saw an all-white-haired Sasquatch walking near them. He said that they all saw it, and it was at least 10 feet tall and 1,000 pounds, and even though they were heavily armed, they all stayed quiet, still and quiet, until it was gone. I didn't read this one before. If I could go back in time, I would have asked 1,000 questions, but at the time I thought he was joking. Al was serious, though, and he didn't care if people believed him or not. Of all that Al had been through and seen in his career in Special Forces duty, combat, war, deaths, and accident scenes, this thing in the snow was what hit him the hardest, and was what he wanted to talk about. Al continued to share with me over time, and I learned that he was really into Bigfoot. He wouldn't tell me much, probably because I would scoff at him, but he did say that he lived in the woods in a trailer in South Texas and has had more encounters. I jokingly asked how Bigfoot got from Alaska to Texas, thinking there was only one in the world. He said that there were a bunch of them all over the world, different colors, different types. I remember Al saying that he and some of his buddies would go into the piney woods of East Texas, heavily armed, on weekends and vacations looking for these beings. For Al, heavily armed probably meant a .50 caliber or more. He said that the ones in Texas were not white, but dark-colored. And the ones in East Texas were mean and would kill you. Almost like others wouldn't do that, but the East Texas ones were different. I never took it seriously and even teased about it. Again, Al didn't give two shits if I believed him or not. If Al was upset with you, you would know it when you were picking yourself up off the ground after he kicked your ass. I think he kind of saw me as a protege, a little buddy, so he tolerated more from me. I asked to go with him on some of their Piney Woods trips, and Al only said that it was not a good idea. I think Al thought that I couldn't take care of myself out there, or he couldn't protect me. Al was always the guy that could run at a grizzly with cubs and yell, "Go on, get," and the bear would run away, not wanting to mess with him. The only time I saw a different side of Al was one time his eyes were unusually soft, and he asked me quietly after the stories, did I believe in Sasquatch? I knew the time for joking or teasing was over. I wanted to believe because he did, but I didn't, and I knew he would know if I was lying to him. I told him that I'd have to see that for myself to believe, but I believed him completely, that he was honest in his belief. The old, "I believe that you believe." I could tell that wasn't good enough, but also what he expected. Soon after, I was transferred to a different location and lost touch with Al. And very shortly after that, I was told that Al had passed away from cancer. I think he had it for a while and didn't tell anyone. I wish Al would have some place like your channel to share his story and get validation, and I wish I would have seen your channel back then so I would have been more open-minded. Life is short. Be supportive of one another. I think Al was on this earth to kick ass and fight evil while he was here, and Steve, I think you're here for that too. Thanks for what you do, Steve. Take care, God bless, and be careful out there. Kevin Lynch. It's a great email, Kevin. It's a great email. I don't care if I read that 17 times. That's a good message to the community. The world community. Rest in peace, Al. You're appreciated by many, no doubt. Imagine seeing what he saw. Knew what he knew. This is titled Portal. I said you could include my name. Okay. Hi, Steve. I'm writing because I heard the story you read on June 28th where the guy said he saw a Sasquatch walk into a portal, which made me decide I'd share my portal experience as well. I wrote you before about my Sasquatch sighting on Saline Lake in DeVille, Louisiana, which you read on July 26, 2021. This next occurrence happened in Bossier City, Louisiana, sometime in October 2020. We had rented a 3-bedroom house that sat only a quarter mile outside Barksdale Air Force Base. We could sit on our back porch and watch B-52s take off and land all day long. It was pretty cool to watch. So I like to sleep in a pitch black room with a fan blowing to keep air circulating and for background noise. Well, this night was the same. Lights out and fan on. We went to bed around 10 p.m. that night, which is pretty normal for us. So I guess I need to describe the room a bit. We had a king-size bed that sat against the wall in the middle of the room. We had end tables on each side of the bed, with a TV against the opposite wall at the foot of the bed. There were 3 doors in the room. So if you're lying in bed, the bathroom door would be in the middle of the room on the right wall side. The door to the hallway would be on the left wall near the corner beside the TV. Then there's a door leading to the back porch on the same wall as the TV, but on the other side of the TV from the hallway door. Truck coming by the gravel road over there. Give me a second. I lost my spot. The door to the hallway would be on the left wall near the corner beside the TV. Then there's a door leading to the back porch on the same wall as the TV, but on the other side of the TV from the hallway door. There are about 5 feet from the foot of the bed to where the TV sits, and then there are about 3 feet on each side of the bed between the bed and the walls. Okay, I think I described the setting well enough to continue. So I'm lying on my back on the left side of the bed, closest to the hallway door, sleeping like a baby. And suddenly, I felt something graze my left cheekbone, and when I opened my eyes, all I could do was start hyperventilating and trying to climb the headboard, which woke up my girlfriend. She was asking me what was wrong, but I was too panicked to even respond. I could not catch my breath enough to answer her. I then jumped up, cut the lights on, and ran in the hallway looking, and then ran out the back door into the yard and still saw nothing. I walked the entire house, cutting on lights and looking around, but I knew it was gone. After I was sure the area was clear and I settled down a bit, I finally told my girlfriend what I'd seen. So, when I felt that rub, I opened my eyes, and there I saw what I can only describe as a gray alien. He was roughly 4 feet tall. He had on a suit that was either black or dark gray in color. On his chest was a glowing thing. I say thing because I've just seen the glow from it, but never seen exactly what was making the glow. He had a fairly large head with relatively skinny arms. His arms were kind of like ours in comparison to his body size. What I mean is that they weren't long or short, but pretty much fit his frame. One thing I will say is that his head was roughly 40% of his entire body mass, much bigger than ours compared to our bodies. I can't describe a face exactly, other than that it just had that typical gray look with big dark eyes that looked something like he had shades on of some sort. So after this thing touched my cheek, I opened my eyes and immediately started panicking. This thing immediately took 2 to 3 steps backward and just disappeared into what I can only describe as a wall of water. As he disappeared into the portal, the room went dark. So once I caught my breath, I searched the entire house. Like I said, the thing had a weird green glow coming out of something near his chest, and this little light was the only way I was able to see his face and upper body proportions in my dark room. It took me a bit to settle and get back in bed, but I just had to remind myself that if it wanted me, it would already have me. I stand no chance against anything that can just come and go like that, so it actually doesn't bother me as much as my Sasquatch sighting. I told this to a few close people and posted on Reddit about a year ago, and I figured it wasn't Sasquatch related, so I kept it off this channel. But since we were talking portals, I figured, F it. Here's another puzzle piece for the gang. I'll write you later about my orb experience in Long Creek, Oregon. For now, I gotta get back to work. Signed, the Squatcher, but you can use my name, Steve. Anyone who truly knows me has already heard about all this. Dustin Bordelon. Okay, man, gotcha. Did you write us in about your Sasquatch experience? And you know, I haven't had a great interest in the alien thing myself, although I do accept it as fact. Because if I don't listen to the people, I'm an idiot. Right? There's just too much testimony and even some video now of what you described. It's a crazy lifetime, you guys. I don't know what this is about, but I'm going to read it. Non-aggressive comment from a How to Hunt video that shared women's moon cycle. June 22nd, 23. Reference Yurok. Greetings, Steve. This likely does not warrant reading as an ancient people story, not intended to be argumentative or contest the content of another's How to Hunt story. I'm a First Nation / Native American man. I've practiced my tribe's spiritual traditional ceremonies throughout my adult life, in my early 60s now. The immense respect bestowed in our ceremonies recognize women as being powerful and especially close to God / Creator. Women being chosen and gifted to create life, all women. During a woman's moon time, the power of creation is enough to tumble and humble the energy and power of the spiritual ceremony. Often, men are the spiritual leaders, and women are leaders in many instances as well. They are deferred to as medicine people. Truck, 1 sec. So many bugs around here. A woman's moon time, a process of life-creating power, can affect spiritual leaders' medicine and can make them weak, sick, disoriented, skewing their medicine, among other effects. The impact of a woman's moon time can directly affect medicine people adversely and affect the ceremony and affect other participants at the ceremony as well. impacts can fall on the spirits and beings that come to be part of the ceremony. Out of respect of their gifted power, women are asked to avoid the ceremony during their moon time so as not to disturb the event or create unintended adverse effects. Out of respect to the ceremony, women observe this and avoid ceremony during moon time. At no time are women in their gender less than or dirty or placed in a subordinate light. In their nature, they are quite literally gifted with a magnificent divine power that is not afforded to men. Respecting the moon time is respecting Creator's divine energy, which is most powerful, of course. Thanks, Steve, for your dedication. Consistency of effort raises the quality. IRA title, a video clip sent in and multiple Sasquatch experiences, June 22nd, 2023. Gotcha, and I absolutely appreciate that email. Very interesting. And all the respect for the women go out to all of them from here, big time. Very interesting. What do we got here? I don't know. Looks pretty long, but I'm going to go in. Quick side note, I read when we got online earlier, I saw a headline news clipping shared. I think it was in Ireland. Somewhere over there. It documented arresting a reverend because he wouldn't accept the non-gender, whatever you want to call it, that they're pushing on the public. He got arrested because he wouldn't call a man a woman. Wow. Sorry, that thought came to my mind. Let's get back on track here. North Wales, UK strange encounters. Hi, Steve. Hope you and all on the channel are well. I came across your YouTube channel a few months back, and I must say, after many years of interest in the Sabe and other matters you relate to on your channel, I finally found a place where like-minded people can share their experiences without being ridiculed or, quite frankly, dismissed with a laugh. With the vast multitude of evidence, encounters, etc. over the decades, even centuries, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind these beings exist and have done so for a very long time. Agreed. My interest started. No doubt you watched the episode, Steve, LOL, watching the $6 Million Man in the 70s. The episode with Bigfoot. And then sometime after, I watched the old classic Legend of Boggy Creek, which absolutely tore me a new one. Petrified me. From that day on, I was hook, line, and sinkered. In those days, we did not have the luxury of internet, etc., so we relied upon TV and newspaper bullshit, of which, in the UK, was virtually non-existent for such topics. Plus, if you firmly believed in these topics and aired your beliefs, you would have most likely ended up in a padded room, over here, or friendless. Moving on to the encounters. This email is twofold, explaining two experiences I've had. One in 1985 when I was 14 years old, and the other was in January of this year, 2023. Winter, January 1985 in the evening. 5 of my friends and I decided to take a ride out on our BMX bikes up to the forest approximately 3 miles from our homes in northeast Wales, UK. It was snowing. There's a new road being constructed through the forest, so we rode down the road and stopped. The forest was up an embankment 100 feet from where they had cut the road through the hill. So we left our bikes and scrambled up to the forest edge where there was a 5-foot post and rail fence. We all climbed into the trees, which were pine, quite dense, but enough space between to run around, so we decided to have a game of hide and seek about 50 yards in. 2 teams of 3, and if you're caught, you were pelted with snowballs. After a few games and a few red swollen ears, we sat in a small clearing and talked for a short time. Then that is when we heard it from the distance away through the trees, at a guess 200 yards. However, trees diffuse sound, so this creature, or whatever it was, could have been a lot closer. I've never, even to this day, heard anything like it. And I've spent a lot of time in the wilderness of this country. The only way I can explain that it was like a huge gorilla roaring with a sore throat. But not quite as guttural, so it started out pretty quiet, but getting louder every few seconds, coming straight at us at speed. You could see pretty clearly as the snow gave some light to the night, but Nothing was moving in the forest. Just this petrifying noise coming at us. It sounded like it was 50 yards away. So as you can imagine, we effing hauled ass out of there. Literally dived through the fence, down the slope, onto our bikes, and pedaled for our lives. When we eventually stopped in a lane half a mile around the other side of the forest to catch our breath, my friend Paul kicked an empty Coke can that was on the roadside into the edge of the forest. I know. And as we were just about to set off home, the effing Coke can flew back out of the forest onto the road and just tipped us over the edge. We went home as quick as we could pedal. A week or so after this occurrence/encounter, we rode down the road again, this time in the daytime, and stopped on the road level with the fence. It was 100 feet up the slope where we entered the tree line previously. And there, on the top rail of the fence, 5 feet up exactly where we had entered, was a dead fox slumped over the top. Head and front end over one side, back end over the other. It had been completely twisted and snapped in half, only its skin around its midriff holding it on there. Explain that one. And that remained there until it rotted some months after, because the road opened for traffic soon after, and every time my mother took me shopping with her, I noticed it for ages. And she kept saying, "Why do you keep looking up there every time we pass?" And I would just pacify her. The guys and I never spoke about it to this day, 2 of which live within 500 yards of my home and I see every day. Encounter number 2 while carp fishing on my syndicate in Shropshire, England. In January of this year, for the weekend, I had to visit a shop halfway through the weekend's trip, a few miles away to top up a few bits. I've been at the lake since the Friday. It was now late Saturday afternoon. On my arrival back to the lake from the shop, I parked up, closed the 6-foot mesh otter gate/fence, which encircles the whole 20 acres, and made my way back to my fishing spot. I stopped off at my friend's spot 50 yards from mine, sat with my back to the otter fence, which was 8 feet behind me, running parallel along the back of the lake. We talked a short time as it started turning dusk. My friend Steve was facing me, talking. Then mid-sentence he stopped, froze, looking right over my right shoulder. The hairs stood up on my neck, as they do, LOL. I turned my head around over my right shoulder to whatever Steve was looking at, and right there, 8 feet behind me, was a massive panther/black cat crouch, walking in stalk mode behind the otter fence, approaching level with us. I stood up, turned around fully, and within 3 huge leaps, it was up to the speed, must have been literally 40 to 50 miles per hour, and shot off down the track and disappeared up the field. We were both speechless for 30 seconds. Then I said to Steve, "Did you see what I just saw?" He replied, "Yep." I said, "What do you think it was?" He said, "Same as you." We reported this encounter to the farm owner due to potential livestock issues and told all the other anglers on the lake, some of which laughed. The usual shit. But we saw what we saw 1,000,000%. 2 years prior to that, I was on another spot on a different lake, but on the same complex. 10:30 p.m. on a Saturday night in winter, just about to settle into my bivvy for the night, I heard the deepest guttural snarl growl coming from behind the otter fence in a ditch. This instantly gave weight to our encounter a few months back, that this animal has been stalking around that fishery some time, and then more recently, only 2 weeks ago, April 23, there was multiple sightings around North Wales and Shropshire. I feel somewhat blessed and humbled to encounter such an amazing animal, but I'm not sure how it would fare up against an 8-foot-tall, 700-pound, hair-covered being if I ever encountered one. Apart from my ex-wife again. No pun intended, all well. We are quite lucky here in the UK. There are very few potentially dangerous animals apart from the aforementioned. Oh, and some human beings. Be safe out there, folks. Appreciate you taking the time reading this to all, Steve. I wish you and all the very best, and keep digging your heels in, guys, against these tyrannical bastards. I'm right there with you. Regards, Cy, North Wales. P.S. If you ever pop over the pond here on your world tour, get in touch with my house. Get in touch. My house is yours, buddy. That's very kind gesture. I absolutely appreciate that. And if I do take up my round globe tour, I'll definitely get a hold of you. I should probably get moving. The Black Panther's been spotted in North America and the UK, and lots from the UK. Lots of sightings. How? I don't know. Is there any human being that can tell me they don't exist there? Nope, not one. Is there many human beings that can tell me they do exist and I believe them? Yep, every one of them. Right? There's too many witnesses. It's a pattern. Like our detective friend emailed in and said, in detective world, professional detective world, if they have 3 testimonies the same, they got a pattern and they jump on it. We've got tens of thousands of everything. Anyway, I got one quick experience to share with you from last evening. Sarah and I found a place a couple years ago, quite the hike in, and you get this deep ravine, so the shoulder of it's like this, the timber goes like this, and it drops down about 30 feet on almost a 45. Hits the bottom where there's a little bit of creek coming out of the ground still, although it's hot, and then goes straight up in front of us, 45, and then straight timber, so we can look across and see what might be coming as it drops down to either cross or drink or wallow. And the place is shredded from wildlife. I look down the mud, and of course there's a bear print. Whatever. And we went back up the slope, and I got a bunch of branches, put a branch across in front of us, put a bunch in front, we made a bit of a blind, and we sat there watching this wallow until it was getting dark. And when the sun disappears behind the mountain and starts to get that gloomy light, that's when everything starts coming alive, right? And we could hear something down in there. And it was weird for me because I'm like, well, how did something get down in there without us seeing it come down from the top edge? But you could hear it cracking, crunching, like right there, probably 20 yards from us. Of course, Sarah's all eyeballs, right? She's got her own rifle. I got one, she's safe, but then all of a sudden I hear, there she is, it's an effing bear. Like, of course, all my luck, right? First time I get her to stay out in the middle of nowhere with me deep in the forest for last night, and a bear is what sneaks up. Oh my God, what are the chances, right? But it went the other way, and she was pretty excited. Her heart was beating out of her chest, all eyeballs. And it started circling around behind us, so you hear it crunching, crunch, 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 crunch. We're good, though. All good. Took me a while to get her back after that. She didn't want to sit there anymore. Damn it, right? You hope you're going to sit there and everything's going to go smooth and some deer or elk or moose are going to come down and hit that creek bottom. But, of course, a bear has to come, right, and ruin it, in a way. Truck come. It's the main gravel road out there. A few hunters around. But anyway, I'm going to get moving. Hopefully I'm going to do this again tomorrow. Hopefully we get this big herd bull tomorrow. We had him so close this morning. He was about, 20 yards from us. One in thick jungle, thicker than this. And he only had to come forward about 5 more steps. But he didn't. It's 2 mornings in a row. So hopefully tomorrow we get that done, and then I will go to another area, and I'm going to put out a whole pile of trail cameras to see what's running around for myself for later on in November. And I've got a few trail cameras out now here for elk, but I don't think I really need to do them anymore because we found them. We found the big herd bull, and we're on them. So there you go. We got more voices shared, more honest people's experiences and knowledge shared word for word. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get a share. I know I don't even know how many people there must be out there who are saying to themselves, okay, this is it, I'm going to share it. And then they just can't. There's a lot, right? That's all right, though. Whenever you decide to do it, we're here. We're always here, and it's a safe place. The link's in the description below, and I think I didn't even look into that. You see in other channels of places they have the blue highlighted links to click on and take you places. I don't think that highlights on my channel. Whatever. I put the links for Sarah's stickers, which are still going around the planet. Obviously she can't ship this week, she's here with me. But she will when she gets back. So that link's below. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That link is below. Get it shared. And I'll be back tomorrow to get more shared. I'm babbling. I'm tired. Well, maybe I'll put some pictures of our elk in this video too. And the other thing, one more quick note. I don't know why. There are so many wasps and hornets this year up here. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I'm done reading emails, by the way. That elk where it dropped, clean kill, where it dropped, huge hornet's nest. Like I looked down and there's Sarah and the huge cloud of hornets coming at her feet, and I just said, "Run!" And she went, "Ah." She didn't know what I was talking about. Imagine yelling "run," me yelling "run" to anybody. You don't run when there's danger. But anyways, she didn't get stung. I'm like, what are the chances? You know, that elk dropped right beside a huge hornet's nest. So I managed to worm my quad in there. Later on, tied a rope on it. I managed to drag him out of there away from the hornet's nest. And then we dragged him quite a ways away so we could work on him and not scare away all the game. And then I might even show this video just so you can see. It was getting hot out. I had to put my hood up, zip it tight, and I had to put one glove on, one hand, so I wouldn't get stung. The whole carcass was absolutely covered in wasps, like it landed on a nest, but we weren't on a nest. And that was the deal everywhere. Even when we got back to camp here, and I hung it all up, it's like I hung it up next to a wasp nest. They are absolutely everywhere. It absolutely is blowing me away. I don't know why. I guess we have bumper crops of hornets. It's amazing. Like, literally mind-boggling. We had to... It cooled off last night, got a little drizzly. But yesterday, it was so bad, or the day before yesterday, it was so bad, just in camp, we had to get all our stuff. I cooked up the tenderloins from the elk. We had to get all of our food, the salad, the buns, everything, and jump in the pickup truck to put together a meal, and we ate it in there to get away from the hornets. Unbelievable. Has anybody ever heard of that happening? I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, ever. Everywhere you go. It's amazing. I'll show you the video. And there you go. I'm out of here. No more babbling. I'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, this side.
So, it's super hot out, and I'm dressed like I'm in a frickin' parka. The elk dumped on the ground right beside a huge hornet's nest, so I dragged this thing about 1 kilometer to get away because there's a big bull in there. I don't scare him away, and look at the frickin' wasps. I had to put this on and this so I don't get stung. So usually you lose a carcass to a grizzly bear, not wasps.